Hare Krishna, my name is Jagat, and today we'll talk about how I came to Krishna consciousness. So I first met the Hare Krishna devotees in Sydney, Australia, when I was just a teenager. I was just 19 years old, and I saw the Hare Krishnas on the street. They were chanting Hare Krishna, and I didn't like the look of the devotees, but they were very happy chanting, and some of the Mataji's gave me some burfi, some very nice burfi. I still remember the taste. It was very, very milky sort of taste, and I got some burfi prasad. Then I met some devotees later on, and they gave me some invitation cards to come to the Hare Krishna Center. Then I met a Mataji a couple of weeks later who was distributing books, and she sold me a third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam with a description of the hellish worlds in it. I came to the temple, and I met her husband, who was the temple president, and he exchanged the Bhagavatam for a Bhagavad Gita. Thought the Bhagavatam was a bit too much, so I got this Bhagavad Gita and I read it. I came to the temple regularly, and I would discuss with the temple president and some of the other devotees the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and I really liked it. It was very exciting to me, very interesting philosophy about Krishna and about how we're Krishna's devotees and we can engage in devotional service. So I began chanting Hare Krishna. I thought, I'm going to give it a really good go and see what happens. So in chanting Hare Krishna and coming to the temple in Sydney, Australia, I felt quite ecstatic, and my life began to change very rapidly. It was quite astonishing, the changes that took place. Even some of my friends and family would take note and say, "Oh, you look different." And I felt very different by chanting Hare Krishna and taking up Krishna consciousness. And so I regularly was attending the temple. Every weekend I would come to the Sunday feast program and talk with devotees. And I had some japamala, and I was chanting rounds and reading. During the week, reading and chanting, I was very, very happy. And I began to remove myself from the association of non-devotees. Of course, that was very surprising to a lot of my friends and my family, because they thought, they're not seeing me, why am I keeping away from them? Of course, I didn't try to explain what I was doing. It was just my personal experiment. And so I began chanting more and more, chanting 16 rounds a day, minimum, and reading the Bhagavad Gita, and coming and discussing with the devotees, and learning more and more about Krishna. In this way, I spent quite a few months coming to the temple and going to my work and working in a job. I was donating money to the temple and continued reading. In this way, I began to have a complete change in my personality. My personality changed. I used to regularly drink with a group of friends from school, and I never drank anymore. I stopped taking all kinds of intoxicants, and I also just basically kept to myself, just talking about Krishna with the devotees. So in this way, quite a few months passed, and then it came closer to Janmashtami of that year in 1976, and I decided I will join the Brahmachari ashram. So I just met with some brahmacharis, and I moved into the ashram, shaved my head, and became a full-time devotee. And this was all part of my experiment, seeing what will happen if I take to Krishna consciousness. So when I moved into the ashram, became a full-time devotee, I experienced even more very ecstatic happiness. I became a little mad because I was so enthusiastic, always jumping up and down. I just loved kirtans, I loved prasadam, I liked the devotees too much. And in this way, I just kept doing this experiment of chanting Hare Krishna, and here I am, nearly 40 years later. And of course I've been married and so many things, but I really do enjoy Krishna consciousness, and my experience is that of I've had no problems at all. My life has just been a dream, and I really have enjoyed Krishna consciousness a lot, and I will continue to do so. Thank you. Hare Krishna.